Okay, we are back with the sixth and final chapter of the Washburn Sonamaster series. This will just be a short video. I thought I would just quickly touch on some of the small adjustments I've made since the initial setup and a couple of small things I like to do at the end of any setup for a guitar that I'm working on. First thing I'll do is I'll bring you into the nut here. Okay, as you can see, I've got the low E string pulled aside. And what I do, I like to take this product here, and all this is, it's like a gel, a lubricating gel, and I put it in all the nut slots after I've finished the setup and I'm happy with the way everything is. This just helps lubricate the where the string passes through the slot. Helps prevent the string from getting jammed up in there when you're bending and stuff. I also put it at the saddle end, which I'll show you in a second. I did all the other strings. I figured I'd show you the last string before we move on. So you pop the little cap off, and we just squeeze a tiny amount into the slot, like that. And this particular product comes with a couple of these little applicator sticks. They're very fine. You can rub it in there if you want. I usually just put the string in and lay it in there. And then just tune it up to pitch. And as the string moves through there, it'll help lubricate that area. And that'll last for quite a while, so we should be okay. And I've also used that same product down here. I've already done them, but I'll just show you. Same idea. You would need to loosen the string off quite a bit and pull it aside and just place it where the string crosses the saddle right here where I'm pointing with the applicator stick. So I've done all six of those. And again, just a small amount, rub it in there. It helps with the lubrication. Because when you're bending the strings and you're using the trem bar, the strings do move a little bit here and also at the nut side. And it just helps keep things moving freely. It helps with tuning stability as well. Another thing you can see, I've also got the trem bar on. The way I've had it set up, like I mentioned before, is the ability to push forward on the bar. Now you can't pull it back because it's flat against the body. Now I call that hardtailed. I think I don't know if that's technically the right term. I think a lot of people refer to that as being decked. So as you can see, the tailpiece lifts off, and then when it seats back, it just rests against the body. There's a few different terms I've heard thrown around, but I know hardtail, to me, this is what a hardtail is. As far as a fixed bridge, which is a bridge that is not movable in any way, regardless of any kind of adjustment, that bridge would be screwed to the body and does not move. There's no bar, so you can't do this. There's no option for that. That's why I prefer to call this a hardtail or decked position. Like a Telecaster style, for example, would be, in my mind, a fixed bridge. There's no moving that bridge. It's screwed right into the body and it can't move. There's also something you may hear called blocking the tremolo, which is, again, a different thing entirely. We did not do that here. I'm not going to get into it. That's another video. We can maybe look at those different options down the road. But for right now, this is more than enough. I don't really think he uses the bar too much, but if he wants to play around with it, he has that option. And again, being decked or hard to the body helps with tuning stability. And let's move on from here. Another slight change I made was in the neck relief. Initially, I had it set up at around 10 thousandths of an inch at the 7th fret. After I had the guitar set up and I play tested it a little bit, I was getting a little bit of buzzing in here, just a little bit. So I added a little more neck relief, and it's sitting at around 12 thousandths now, and that seems to be the sweet spot. I'm not getting any buzzing. It plays fine. It's not It's not too high. The frets, it's not rattling against the frets. So I think that's good, and well within what most people would consider to be a standard neck relief for this style of guitar. Uh, Being a Strat style, it's got a 25.5 inch scale length, which is the length of the guitar from the nut to the saddle over at this end. 25.5 inches end to end. As far as string height goes, I set them up initially at 4/64ths at the 17th fret. They are slightly higher now at about 4.5/64ths. The reason I did that was I was getting a tiny amount of buzzing down here. Just zoom you in a little bit. Now, what had happened when I had checked the frets initially, there was a little bit of a high spot on one of them. Not a high spot. The fret was, I think, was lifted a little bit, and I tapped them down with the fretting hammer back here, and it seemed fine. And I was playtesting the other day. There was a little bit here. This fret here is lifting a little bit. Not much, like very, very small amount. You really only notice it when you get up here. It's gone now. What I had done was I just moved the string aside and I tapped it back down again, and it seems to be okay. I'm thinking over time it might lift up again, but it was really only making a noise when you were playing like about here, and it was starting to buzz against this fret here. Yeah, you can hear a little bit there. It won't do it there because there's nothing else past this point. So not a big deal. Like I don't think he's not going to be playing a lot of notes or chords in this area of the fretboard. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm going to mention it to him. Maybe the next time he wants me to do a setup and change the strings, we can take a closer look at that fret. It might be okay. I tapped it back down. Maybe it'll be okay now that the fretboard has been moisturized when we oiled it. Maybe that was all it took, was just another tap to get it back to seat properly. But again, it's not a deal breaker. The only time it was making noise was when I was playing up here, and that's pretty minor. And again, I'm striking the string pretty hard too. Hopefully that's coming through on the mic. In a playing position, it's even less noticeable. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Um, that's about it. The guitar's in tune. I've intonated it. It's still in tune and intonated properly. All that's really left to do now is to put the back plate back on the bottom of the guitar here. Back plate there, it's got to go back on. And all I got to do is cut the string tails off at the headstock. I like to leave those on till the very end, just in case you need to loosen the strings or you need something to hold on to. Because if you cut them too short, you might have a problem getting them back on there again. You can trim some of the excessive length off if you like. You don't want to be poking your eyes out when you're working off the headstock end. But yeah, I usually leave that till the very end. It's a common tip that a lot of guys like to do. That's about it for now. The only thing left is to trim those. I'm going to give the body a quick wipe down. As you can see, I've got a few finger marks on it now from the setup. And I think I showed you this before. This is what I use at the end. It's just a spray-on cleaner. You spray it on the rag, give it a wipe, and then wipe it off with the dry, and just takes the finger marks and stuff off. It's a real good day-to-day thing. I use this stuff after I play any of my guitars. I just give them a quick wipe down, and it helps keep them clean, and they look good, and it helps prevent the buildup of finger marks and grease and grime that's all over your fingers when you play. Other than that, there's not much more else to talk about. I'm not sure if I'm going to record the guitar through the amplifier because I don't think it's really going to highlight the guitar very well. I guess I could try it, see how it sounds, and if it sounds okay, maybe I'll include it in the video. But really, it's not something I think I'm going to do because it all depends on how you're listening. If you're listening with headphones, if you're listening on your phone or through your TV, it's going to sound a little different. So it won't really be an accurate representation of how the guitar sounds. But I'll try it, see how it sounds. Um, and as a final note, all these measurements I've taken, I will always recheck them in the playing position. I did not show that in the video. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but that's ideally the way you want to do it. So you want to check your neck relief, you want to check your string height, and you want to check your final intonation checks and tuning in the playing position. It's very close to where it is on the bench, like laying down. It's just easier for me to do all this while the guitar is laying down like this. Then the final stage, I would check it one more time, and it's very close. It's usually a little bit flat. And you just gotta tighten everything up a bit. I recorded the guitar through the amplifier, but as I suspected, it did not come through very well on my clip-on microphone that I'm using to record these videos. It sounded pretty bad, actually, so I decided not to include it. Not really a fair assessment of how the guitar sounds, but we're not here to do a review on the guitar, the pickups, or anything. We're just looking at some of the repair work and the setup stuff anyway, so I'm just going to not include that. Before I put the backplate on, I thought maybe I would record a couple of short bits just to share with everyone. And if you're new to this, you might be wondering what this wire here on the back of your guitar is. As you can see, it's soldered to what they call the claw, this little piece of metal that's got the 5 little teeth on it. This claw is your grounding point for this wire, and this wire feeds through the body and back into the cavity on the other side of the guitar, and which grounds all your electronics here. Now, we didn't look at that at all. I didn't even take the pick guard off in this particular instance, but I thought I'd mention it since we're here. So while you're here, you just want to make sure that this wire hasn't come loose, because if it does, and you go to plug your guitar in, you're going to get a lot of buzzing and interference and stuff. But we're good. This wire is on here securely. There's nothing to be done. All we got to do is put the back plate back on. I'm just going to give that a quick wipe before I'm just getting around the cavity here where the plastic cover sits. And we'll give the guitar a full wipe down once we're done. So as you can see, there's some holes in the back of this plate. Now, what those holes are for is for when you change your strings. Let me just take this off. This is your tone block. Hold on, there we go. So just redo that. This back plate has got these holes in it here. And what those holes are for is for when you're changing your strings and you're pushing them through the tone block here, you don't need to take this back cover off unless you're doing some additional work. If all you're doing is changing your strings, you'll be able to just use these holes here. And you probably can't see it from the angle, but those holes in the tone block line up with the holes in that plate. So that's what those are for, if you're wondering what that's all about. So I'm just going to go grab my screwdriver and screw that back plate back into place. These are just basic Phillips head screws. I use a magnetic screwdriver to make your life a little easier for lining things up. I usually do most of these things by hand. You can use an electric screwdriver if you've got one. Just be careful. You don't want to strip out the hole where these screws go into. And you don't got to over tighten these either. Just get them snug into the body. I like to get them about 3/4 of the way in. Just make sure everything's lining up properly before you tighten everything down. Okay, so then after that, I'll just snug all these screws up. That is that. All that's really left now is to cut those string tails off. Let me just move the camera here and I'll might as well show you that since we're recording this. Okay, I've got the camera moved so we can see the strings a little better. So you can see, as I mentioned, when we change the strings, you've got the wraps here and you've got the string tail poking through, and you can see it's pinched between the top wrap and the wrap below it, and then we've got a third wrap underneath. So that's plenty for the wound strings for sure. That's a common restringing technique. A lot of guys use that and seems to work fine. It's real easy to do and learn. So all we're going to do now is just cut these tails off. So just get yourself your pair of side cutters. Put that in the camera there. And you just, obviously be careful. You don't want to cut the wrong string. Is that showing up? Yeah, there we go. And just give that a little snip. And there you go. There's a tiny little tail sticking out, but you're not really going to be poking yourself with that. And just do the same for the remaining strings. That's about it. I'm going to cut the remaining 3 off, and then I'm going to give the guitar a nice wipe down and clean it up, and then we'll take a final look at it before we wrap up this last chapter. Okay, one final look at the Washburn Sonamaster. She's all ready to go. I think she looks really nice and shiny and clean. Nice new strings, nice new setup. Everything looks good. I'm happy with the way it turned out. As far as overall thoughts, what I'll mention to the owner is a couple things we touched on in the previous videos. The nuts slots being cut a bit low. Not a concern at the moment. I would suggest replacing this nut at some point in the future. This is a plastic nut. You could probably upgrade that to a Graphtec or bone or whatever. It doesn't really, whatever the player prefers. But I think over time, this will eventually become a problem where the string will just be sitting too low in that nut slot and it cause some buzzing. But for right now, it's fine. Everything else seems fine. One small thing I noticed when I was tuning was the G tuner. There's a slight little bit of a dead spot, meaning when you turn the tuner, there's a bit of an area where it's not doing anything. There's not much you can do about that other than replace the tuner. It's not affecting anything. You can still tune and detune. You just need to be aware of that little dead spot in there. Other than that, there's really nothing wrong with this guitar. It'll last them a long time. Take care of it. There's nothing other than those 2 things. If you wanted to replace the tuners, I would recommend locking tuners. It's always a good upgrade on any guitar, in my opinion. But again, it's up to the owner. And I think that'll do it. And just wanted to say thanks to everyone who watched. And I appreciate all the views and the subscriptions and comments. And hopefully, you learned a few things if you're new to this. There's no reason why, an entry level or a budget guitar, as they're called, can't play well. It's usually a matter of a setup, and that applies to any guitar, whether it's a $200 guitar or a $2,000 guitar. So good skills to learn, especially if you're just starting out. I hope you got something out of these videos. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.